Today I'm going to be demonstrating a very simple Halloween themed painting. Hi, I am Lisa, the artist behind Lachri Fine Art. For today's demonstration, I have painted this on a Fredrix watercolor canvas. Just because they say that they're for watercolor, they actually work for all water-based mediums. So great, I use it all the time for acrylics. They are really smooth to work on, so getting fine detail and smooth blending, or if you're airbrushing a lot, they're great. Now, if you want to paint this exact painting yourself, I did upload a line drawing of this over on my website, so you can print that out and trace it and make your own little Halloween painting. If you're supporters over on Patreon, make sure to head over there where the 1-hour version of this tutorial is available for you now, complete with voiceover. Now let's get on to this tutorial. I've started off by painting my canvas black, and then I used the airbrush to spray white wherever I wanted the light portions to be. If you don't have an airbrush, you can do this just fine by mixing the blue and making it fade out into the black. Because of the way that I did the background, it doesn't have to be this smooth. I just used the airbrush to save time. I then sprayed a turquoise color right over that and over the black as well. Once that dried, I took a stiff brush and a palette knife and flicked white paint onto the canvas. I will do a separate video showing you guys how to do that for stars. I used transfer paper to transfer my original drawing from the tracing paper onto my canvas, and then I started by painting my moon white. I'm using Liquitex Basics for this, and I do have a bit of water mixed in with my paint. Once that is dry, I can start adding shading over the moon. I'm going to be using phthalo blue with a bit of black and again water to get this to blend. You need to make sure though that the white is completely dry first, otherwise you can lift some of the white off the canvas, which is not going to look very good. Now to create the craters in the moon, I'm using a liner brush. This is a synthetic hog-haired bristled brush. I believe that's a number 3. I'm using black paint, and I'm drawing the circle and just smudging both sides of that circle off to the left. I'm leaving the line on the right-hand side harsh and then smudging them both out so it creates the look of a crater. And the brush that I'm smudging that out with is a stiff round brush. Next, I used a plastic bag that I dabbed with white paint, and I just sponged that over the moon so that I have a bit more texture. Cleaning up the edges of the moon, just brightening that up a bit more. Now this doesn't have to be perfect because of the way that I'm going to do the background now. I'm using a sponge brush, just like I did on the recent tiger painting, and I'm making both horizontal and vertical lines. I don't want a lot of water mixed in with my paint here. I don't want to overdo this. I want to make sure that that background and the moon can still peek through on areas. Once the black dried, I came back over with some white. I will let that light gray color or white color dry, and then go back over it with a little bit more black. Now I can move on to the shelf. I am using burnt sienna, white, and black to create this color. And I want it to fade from black in the background so that it's just very dark and it fades to the lighter color up front. And this is supposed to be kind of an old shelf, so it really doesn't matter to me that everything's perfectly straight or perfectly drawn here. I just want to make sure that the slope itself doesn't lean one way or the other on the two ends. I have a video showing you how to do wood grain. I will have a card pop up, so you can check that out. I'm using a small brush to line in all of the wood grain there. Now I'm on to the cat. I am outlining him with black, and I'm just going to fill him in solid. Once that dries, I'm going to use the same drawing that I previously drew out on tracing paper and transfer paper to transfer my image back onto the canvas. So I don't have to worry about painting around the details in his face at all. I do need to make sure that this black paint dries completely before I transfer that image. Now I'm going to be adding highlights. I'm using titanium white, and I'm just outlining the edges of the cat both on the front and back. Anywhere where you want the fur to be more sleek, you're going to do longer brush strokes. Where I want the fur to be fluffier, like around the chest, I've got shorter brush strokes. I've mixed transparent mixing white from the Liquitex Heavy Body along with some phthalo blue and phthalo green to create this aqua color that I painted around the cat. Once that dries, I'm going to come back through with black to create all of the shadows so that just portions of that aqua color show through. Now, I don't want a ton of detail in this cat. I want him to be really, really simple, very, very basic. At no point on this painting do I want anything to have a ton of detail. You can see I pulled out the highlights on the front end of the cat, leaving the darker blues in the background. Onto the pumpkins. I have drawn those out with a white charcoal pencil. This is one of the reasons that I like the Liquitex Basics so much, because that charcoal sticks to it really well. I'm using unbleached titanium white to block in the pumpkins. This is a very opaque white, so it covers my background really well. Once that's dry, I am using orange to go over all of the pumpkins. And that orange that I'm going to be using, I have mixed red, yellow, and a little bit of burnt sienna. I've got to dry those completely, and then I can start shading them. I'm using a bit of magenta with burnt sienna here on these shadows. Whenever I work with orange, I will almost always use magenta mixed in with it for any of my shadows. Those colors work really well together. Once I get this layer of shadows done, I need to let that dry completely, and then I'm going to put on my next layer of shadows. I'm going to repeat this 3 times until I get the shadows as dark as I want them. It's easier to slowly build up, especially when you're using colors like this that are so translucent, than to try to get it perfectly dark the first time through, because it's really easy to go too dark. This time I've mixed a bit of black in with the color, and for my shadow here, I'm using Mars Black and just smudging that out with a stiff round brush. Now I'm adding highlights with the unbleached titanium white again. You can see nothing is terribly detailed. I want this whole painting to be a little bit looser. Definitely not going for photorealism here. I'm taking some of that orange and using that for the reflection on the cat that is closest to the pumpkins. Now, while black fur does reflect what's around it, the reflection probably wouldn't be that orange, but it worked for helping the cat to stand out against the moon and against that background. So that is why I chose to add the black there. And then I'm adding a few more highlights on the back of the cat with the transparent mixing white. Adding a few details, not going too crazy on that cat. Again, I don't want too many details anywhere or won't look right because they don't have a lot of details anywhere else. Use the liner brush for all the little details and whiskers. And that is it. And again, this drawing is available for you over on my website. I have the line drawing if you want to draw the same one yourself. Adding a few fireflies to finish this up. I'm using the airbrush, but if you don't have an airbrush, you can use a stiff round brush and just add a little teeny bit of white paint to it and just kind of dry brush little circles there to create that look. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Again, if you are supporters over on Patreon, the 1-hour version of this tutorial is available for you now, complete with voiceover. So make sure to head over and check that out. If you're new to my channel, I have new video critiques every Tuesday where I'm critiquing your original paintings or drawings, my own speed paintings, drawings, and tutorials every Wednesday, social media tips for artists each Thursday, and artist vlogs every weekend. So if you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. So you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Google+. All of those social media sites are linked below in the video description, where you can keep up with news, my newest work, and see real-time clips of whatever it is I'm currently working on. I'll see you guys tomorrow.